I'm so happy to be back. I missed you, missed your faces, but what's taken me away, I'm going to introduce Patricia Hagen, PhD. She is the president and founding executive director of the TRex Innovation Center in downtown St. Louis, Missouri. Her background in academic and nonprofit executive leadership brought her to TRex in 2014, where Patricia and the TRex team have built a national profile for TRex as a hub for entrepreneurship and technology innovation. Since 2014, TRex companies have created over 5,000 jobs in the region, and the TRex Innovation Center has hosted hundreds of thousands of people for meetings and events. Over the past few years, Patricia led the development of TRex's Geospatial Innovation Center and partnered with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency to build moonshot labs at TRex. These efforts were followed with TRex being named as the partner intermediary for the NGA, focusing on mission objectives that the agency has in technology transfer, innovation, and workforce development. In her previous role as vice president of the National Audubon Society, Patricia founded the Audubon Center in Riverlands at the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Patricia also proudly served as an honorary commander at Scott Air Force Base. Patricia received her PhD in public policy analyst from St. Louis University. Please welcome me and please help me in welcoming Patricia Hagen.
Oh my gosh, it's always so weird to hear yourself introduced, isn't it? I just kind of want to crawl into a shell sometimes. Thank you all so much for having me here. And thanks to my friend Tina, who is now working with us at TRex, and what a wonderful asset Tina is for our mission-oriented work for the entire region. So thank you, Tina. We love you. It's clear that you all love Tina too. So we're just loving having her as part of our team. So thank you, Tina. And thank you all for having me tell you about what we're doing today over at TRex. My background includes, as Tina mentioned, work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to build the Audubon Center at Riverlands, which really had me working a lot with folks on the Illinois side of the river. I worked a lot in Alton and north of Alton. I worked with the Army Corps at the Riverlands Migratory Bird Sanctuary mainly, which is in the West Alton area. But so I miss that work. I miss working with my friends on the east side. So this was a real pleasure to be invited to, visit on the other side of the river. Too bad this is sometimes such a weird boundary, in our region. It doesn't make sense to me, but I love what's happening in Edwardsville, and it's just wonderful when we can make these connections. So right now, what we're doing is working to build TRex, which is an innovation center located in downtown St. Louis. Have any of you heard of TRex or the work? Oh my gosh. Wow, thank you. Okay, that's great. That's great. So we were founded in 2011, actually, as a project in downtown St. Louis. And I don't know if you can sort of picture that time. 2011, there was a lot of attention to tech-focused startups. There were a lot of young people that were trying to build apps, applications for the internet and so forth. There was venture capital floating around, funding some of this. There was some quality work being done, but actually there was a little bit of a faddishness to it. When I look back on this and think, I don't know if any of you ever watched the Silicon Valley series that was on, it wasn't on Netflix, but one of the streaming channels. And that sort of captured some of the climate around all of this technology startup, but it certainly was a movement. And there were leaders in economic development in St. Louis that saw this as an opportunity for downtown. And at the time, downtown was really, starting to boom. There was a movement at the same time of young people to downtown urban districts in lofts and so forth. Some of that's changed since then, as I'm sure a lot of you know, but that was the picture at the time, about 2011. So TRex started as a project in that context, and economic development organizations put some volunteer time toward getting some free space in the old Railway Exchange building downtown. That was where Macy's was located, if you can kind of picture that. And that is a building that is way overbuilt, by the way. That it's like a 1 million square foot building that is now empty in downtown St. Louis. So, but we had, at the time, Macy's had just moved out, and we got some low-cost space. At the same time, Arch Grants was founded, if you've heard of Arch Grants, another nonprofit that's focused on helping startups, mostly technology-based startups, and another organization called Capital Innovators, which is a venture capital firm. And all of these, so TRex took some space, low-cost space in the Railway Exchange building. Capital Innovators got started and moved in, and Arch Grants moved in and got started. So all of these things together led to a pretty successful start for our organization. And pretty soon, over the course of, I would say 2 years, we had about 70 startups located in the space that we had in the Railway Exchange building, and Capital Innovators and Arch Grants. And so that really kind of got things going. By the way, that's where we got our name, TRex, Technology in the Railway Exchange. So we kept that name even though we're no longer in the Railway Exchange. So anyway, but we have a great brand too. People remember it. We have a cute logo. I should have brought our logo and put it up, but anyway. So by 2013, we were starting to outgrow that space, and a building came up for sale in downtown called the Lambert Building. And I'm getting up there in age, and I remember Lambert furniture and my mom having Lambert furniture. So it's that building. And they used to manufacture furniture there and sell furniture there and so forth. So that building was up for sale. It was no longer owned by the furniture company. It was owned by a law firm. And we got it for a good price, but we bought it. We had no money. We had no money. We bought it using loans from community-focused banks, Pulaski Bank at the time, which is now Busey. And then we got new market tax credits through the St. Louis Development Corporation. And then we also raised money in the community, which was, it's kind of hard to raise money for to support entrepreneurship, different than other kinds of philanthropy, like conservation or helping children. So this was a different kind of philanthropy, but people thought that this could be a real economic booster for St. Louis. So we bought the Lambert building, and since then, fast forward for a while, we have raised about $16 million to renovate that facility. We're still not done. These old buildings, they need a lot of work. But as part of those renovations, in terms of space, what we've done is build a co-working space and an innovation conference center so that we can host nonprofits and sponsor partners, and industry partners, and also have our small businesses have space available to them so that they can have meetings and events and grow their businesses. And what that starts to look like, and you almost have to see this, but we have on our 5th floor, that's where our Innovation Conference Center is, that's where our offices are. What that starts to look like is a little kind of like a town square, because that's where you get your coffee, and that's where the administrative offices are, and that's where co-working spaces, lots of meetings going on. And so people are coming and going all the time. And that sets up an environment of running into people who can help you, who can make connections for you, who might invest in your business, who might hire you. And just, you've heard this term serendipitous collisions. It sounds a little, cliche, but it is true. It's, we've seen it happen over the years. So that's sort of how a lot of attention began to grow around what we were doing at TRex, because I was giving away free space in our conference center all the time, just to get that activity going and to try to create that environment. So as we did that, one of the things that concurrently was happening was the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency was deciding where to build their campus. And, there was, as I'm sure all of you know, there was a lot of discussion, and anyway, over time, a decision was made to build their new $2 billion facility about 1.5 miles away from where we're located in downtown St. Louis. And NGA at the same time was dealing with a lot of pressure in terms of their own workforce and their need to manage the data that they have around the imagery that they have to analyze for our nation's security. So in terms of workforce, they're losing workforce. They have a retirement problem. And they also have a recruitment problem, as all of us do, really. I mean, it is really hard right now to hire good people, especially in technology fields. So they're feeling the same pressure. So they're feeling the pressure to make their organization more compelling to young people and make it easier to get into the NGA through security clearance and all that. So that was one pressure. Another pressure was this, the amount of data that they're dealing with. So, in the old days of the Defense Mapping Agency, which used to be their name, they used to just look at maps or pictures that were taken from airplanes flying above various areas around the globe, and then analyze what was going on in those areas using those pictures and human analysts looking at the pictures. Well, now, as you also know, there are, tons of satellites in the sky constantly taking pictures of all of these areas. And so just to even keep up with all of that imagery data is impossible for humans, for the analysts. They have to hire tens and tens of thousands of analysts to look at pictures with human eyes. So what became necessary is for them to innovate and to build new methodologies in order to deal with that amount of data. And so to do that, they have to work in an unclassified way. Most of their stuff had been done at a top secret level, a classified level, but now they have to get more help and have commercial industry partners both get the data for them, like Maxar and Planet Federal. You've probably heard of some of these companies, but also analyze the data and find new methodologies for analyzing the data. So things like artificial intelligence and machine learning are central to the future of their analysis of data to ensure our country's security. So they need top-level technology expertise in order to build those kinds of systems. They buy that sometimes from commercial providers, and then they also grow it within their organization, and they try to hire that out of our universities. And one thing I forgot to mention, just you may know this, but just to make sure, NGA has 2 headquarters. One is in Arlington, in the DC area, and then the other is the St. Louis area. So we are considered NGA West. And so Senator Blunt in Missouri was a great supporter of both NGA objectives and what they're trying to do. He was on the Intelligence Committee as well. And he started to get involved at TRex, as did NGA. So NGA needed to work more with the unclassified community to get the kinds of expertise and the technology developments that they needed to advance their work at the same time that we were building out TRex. So a number of things happened. They just started to come over to TRex to practice, you know, being in an unclassified space, because they're used to, if any of you have clearance, you know, it's hard to get into these kinds of spaces if you don't have clearance. So if they had to work like with Amazon Web Services or something, they could not, it was hard for them to get AWS to be able to come onto the campus. And so it was lots of delays, lots of difficulty in doing that. Working at a place like TRex allowed them to bring that kind of expertise together in a way that they hadn't been able to do before. So just to give you an example, there was a project, and this sort of launched a lot of things, but there was a project called the Snowball Project. And I did not know this until we worked with the NGA, but this project was focused on providing location information to the warfighter in the field on the fly, and having that updated and having it available on a machine that could be updated, but that also could take high temperatures and low temperatures. So Amazon actually makes a piece of equipment called the Snowball. And so NGA tried an experiment at TRex in which we gave them some free space. They worked with AWS, Amazon Web Services, to develop programming on the Snowball machine that then was able to be deployed in the field. They said it probably happened a year faster than it would have happened had it been only done in a classified environment, and then saved, I heard the figure of $15 million. So, and then they told all this to Senator Blunt, and Senator Blunt said, we have to continue to support this. And so that led to a number of things. One thing was NGA took space at TRex, and that was unheard of. You know, that was just, and we were thrilled, you know, because our mission, our nonprofit mission, is to build an institution in St. Louis that will serve our community for years to come, and serve in terms of inclusive workforce development, entrepreneurship, and innovation, because all that leads to jobs. You guys know all this. This is at your heart of what you do. So, they decided to build Moonshot Labs at TRex, which is the first unclassified intelligence innovation facility in the US. And so we built it at TRex, so it's pretty cool. We also built our own geospatial innovation center at TRex, so two separate things on different floors of our building that feed into one another and can help one another. And then the next thing that happened was we received from NGA, they've only done this once before, but we are now considered a partner intermediary for NGA, which means that we serve as NGA's partner in accomplishing various mission objectives that they have around workforce development, technology transfer, and innovation. So they come to us and they say, hey, we need you to put together a project that will advance innovation in the intelligence community. And we bring in partners to accomplish those efforts. And thus far, we've brought in partners like the Wright Brothers Institute out of Dayton, Ohio, which is an organization that works directly with the Air Force on innovation activities that the Air Force has. Another organization called Riverside Research, which does data science. And what we're doing is building a data library for researchers and innovators to use at no cost or low cost. And then, why am I blanking? University of Missouri St. Louis in student development, and so more to come. We also have SIU Edwardsville, Dr. Randy Pearson, dear friend of mine, geospatial expert. I don't know if any of you know him, but he's awesome. And I brought him as a consultant on workforce development initiatives, because Dr. Pearson is the regional king of developing curricula in the geosciences. He's wonderful if you haven't met him. He might be a good speaker for you guys sometimes. But anyway, so we bring all these projects together to serve NGA with the effect of creating more jobs and more innovative opportunities for St. Louis, because the ultimate goal is to get more jobs, more opportunity for training to ensure that those jobs are inclusive and that there's a diverse representation of opportunity, which hasn't happened in the past in these fields, and to really beef up the STEM workforce efforts that St. Louis is making. And then in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship, the opportunity for these startups to have exposure to industry sponsors of ours, such as Maxar, Planet Federal, Deloitte. We have multiple sponsors as part of my fundraising job. I do that, that are also engaged in our entrepreneurial efforts. So I'll stop there. That's a good update, I think, on where we're at. Oh, and one other thing I'll mention is we host many in our Innovation Conference Center. We really do have hundreds of thousands of people coming through over the years using our spaces at seriously no cost or low cost, because we want that kind of activity. And that's our mission. We're very mission-oriented organization, as you are, and focused on our community as Rotary is as well. So I'm so proud of our team, so proud to have Tina join us, and it's just wonderful to see this mission orientation and culture throughout our organization. So stop there, guys.
Does anyone have any questions for Patty?
Yes, sir.
More of a comment. Dr. Pearson has done a lot of work with the Edwardsville School District.
Yes.
The boundary lines are in the house, so yeah, we'll get the geographic expertise around it.
I know he's worked in the school system there. He's worked on the St. Louis side at the collegiate school. He's helped me for years. He is a dear friend and just an amazing guy. So, you know, a real mission-oriented guy as well. So you guys have a gem, definitely.
Any other questions? I would like to think of some, but this stuff is so far over my head.
Oh.
Trying to. Well, that being said, on behalf of the home nursery and Tasaskia and Patty, we'd like to give you a flower here.
Oh my goodness, I love
Take home and thank you.